At Honda, we know young people love new words, so we made one up too, Summerbration, and it is tight. Just like the 2017 Fit at 0.9% APR. So hurry into your local dealer for the Honda Summerbration sales event from KBB.com's best value brand.
Visit your Metro Milwaukee Honda dealer today during the Honda Summerbration sales event.
Based on 2017 Brand Image Awards from Kelley Blue Book, visit KBB.com for information. APR financing offers available for well-qualified buyers. See dealer for financing details.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Friday afternoon edition of Sin's Chat Corner. I wanted to say first and foremost that I've missed all of you. As you might have mentioned last week, that I was going to be taking the week off to spend with my children due to the Easter break. And also, I just wanted to make everyone aware, I know that we had a regularly scheduled interview this afternoon with Lady London Jewelry. So due to some unforeseen circumstances, we have obviously pushed that interview back. So to all of you, just to let you know, I'll be posting later. That's going to be 10 o'clock tomorrow morning Central Standard Time. That's going to be Lady London Jewelry, and coincidentally, and very surprisingly I might add, we weren't expecting it, but we are going to be having both Nicole of Lady London Jewelry and Love Majeski from the Mob Wives of New York coming on the show as well, so majorly excited about that. So, without further ado, my gracious guest has been kind enough to wait on hold for me. He's a lovely gentleman by the name of Alan Braunstein. We're going to find out about his production that's coming up at the Manhattan Rep Theater, find out a little bit about him, and let's take it from there. Hi, Alan.
Hello. Yes,
How
can
are
you hear
you?
me, Cindy?
I can
good.
hear you very well now. I'm so sorry. I apologize for the delay here. I'm like, with this radio station, for some reason, it's like if it's not exactly 3 o'clock, they just kind of let you sit on hold up until the point I get to you. So I feel kind of badly. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so
That's
sorry.
okay.
My goodness gracious. That's quite all right. So thank you first and foremost for joining me on this lovely Friday afternoon. It's been quite the day, I'll tell you. So I'm ecstatic
sure.
that you're here. Yes. And Bridget speaks very highly of you. So I'm really excited to ask some of these questions and kind of get a feel for exactly who you are. I got to say,
sure.
it's just an honor and a privilege to just be graced with your presence today. I mean, you have various accomplishments that in my eyes just paint you as a marvel of stage, both on and off. And I just admire one's ability to be able to juggle just numerous talents and to be successful at it. So kudos to you. I mean, right off the bat, I think you're lovely.
Thanks very much. Yeah.
Maybe you're quite welcome. Commencing from, let's start way back. Let's say start maybe at childhood, commencing back there. Maybe paint us a picture of some of the earliest memories you have that you think kind of influenced you towards working in entertainment. Can you remember that?
That's interesting. Yeah, sure. I mean, well, I was always like, the funniest of my friends, definitely. And even in early years, being in summer camp, I used to do, put on like comedy sketches with the kids if I was their counselor,
Okay.
And definitely, amongst my friends, I was like the funny one. And I'm an only child, so I spent a lot of time, by myself in my room with my imagination, coming up with things like that, and later on, I ran a radio station in the camp, so I was like writing radio plays with the kids, and even my earliest kind of acting years was, getting into doing a children's theater company where, I was in my 20s then, and we were writing and performing our own shows for kids, and which are very original, fun shows, with, sketches and music and comic bits. So I was already, kind of training my brain, for where a lot of things would end up,
Sure, definitely. And did you find from early on, I know that some people say like a child prodigy, for instance, like when I was young, of course, I was out drawing spiders all the time, but I always knew in the back of my mind the writer was the one component. For you, was it more, okay, I want to be an actor, I want to do plays, I want to write? Was there one predominant burning flame?
No, I mean, I started out definitely as an actor. I thought for sure I'm going to be an actor. I was a theater major in college, and I was in a lot of plays, and I, had a lot of success and sort of fame within my small college sphere, in upstate New York, Cortland, and State University of Cortland. And then, I didn't really think of myself as a writer, even though I had some of those earlier, younger experiences. I definitely went for acting, hit the ground running, came to New York in my 20s, did the whole 9 yards, acting classes, dance, singing, running around auditioning for Broadway musicals, and some TV gigs here and there. And but the writing part of me, that didn't happen until I actually met Jerry Stiller of, Seinfeld fame, as we know. But I knew him back then, and I suddenly, just kind of long story, but I basically ended up writing for him and his wife, Ann Mira, and they had a 5-minute TV show called Take 5 with Stiller and Mira, and I hadn't even thought of myself as a writer, and they hired me for that, freelance, but I ended up, going to every taping of these sketches that they did. I must have gone to see a taping of like 150 sketches, and that was like going to comedy college, because the head writer was Paul Dooley, well-known actor who's been in, Curb Your Enthusiasm, a lot of different things. And I was around real professional, TV people who knew comedy, and Jerry and Ann were freaking geniuses. So it was like, just all I had to do was be a sponge. I had to be a human sponge, Cindy, and that's what I was. And I just observed, and I just sort of soaked it all up, and suddenly I started thinking of myself as a writer. And, acting was, acting jobs were not easy to come by in New York. I mean, I managed to get the usual, touring companies and off-Broadway shows, but suddenly I thought, okay, I can write. This is really, really fun, and I'm good at it. And from that, I ended up going into advertising and being a copywriter at all these different ad agencies, all the big ones in New York, J. Walter Thompson, McCann Erickson, Gray Advertising. And I did that. I've had a long career doing just that and writing commercials. But I've always done the other, So then I sort of got back into, really, I missed being on stage. So I started doing improv, and I did stand-up. And so I was always mixing and juggling all of it, is I think my point,
Sure.
So they've all been at play with me, the writer and the actor. Not that they're at war with each other. But,
oh, my God.
It's like a duel to the death. No, it's and then the comic thing, of course, I love getting the laughs, because that's I love that any way I can get them. So if I can get them as a writer, it's great. If I can get them as an actor, it's just as good,
That's awesome. Absolutely awesome. Wonderful.
Yeah,
now,
so
I wanted to talk a little bit about, as far as you're venturing into theater, of course. Now, I would ascertain, because, of course, I'm not in theater myself, I would gather, though, that gaining a level of education is primary as far as mastering being in the theater. Maybe could you tell our audience how, first of all, did you receive a significant amount of schooling as it's relative to performing in theater? And not only that,
for sure.
Are you,
yeah.
Okay. And then after that, if you could maybe detail where you derived most of your attention or God, I can't talk today. Tell us.
Where I learned it?
Where you derived your education. And then I always want to ask the question, because I do this with other actors as well. Are you of the vernacular that the education has taught you what you needed to and prepared you for live theater, or are you of the vernacular that experience is the best teacher?
Okay. Well, first of all, I guess in answer to that first question of, I definitely got good training in college in theater, and tried a lot of different types of things, a lot of different kinds of roles. I got to be in, this James Joyce's Ulysses in Nighttown, which is a very complex play. It was like a 3-hour play, and I was in that when I was like 18. And it was a huge, huge experience for me on stage, because I had to literally be on stage for almost 3 hours straight, doing everything in the world, from mime to just all this crazy language I had to spout, and it was like getting shot out of a cannon. And from that point on, I really had a love of it. And then I learned a lot doing summer stock, 2 seasons of that. I learned what it's like to get a show up quick and get on and get off, and have a rotating series of characters that you're doing. And I just did, and I took, your basic acting classes and, technique. But it's not like my college was known to be like the greatest, acting school in the world. But I had a very good professor up there, a man named Dr. Palmer, who taught me an enormous amount. And I learned from watching my fellow actors, I learned what to do or what not to do. But you're learning tricks as you go along. And I think what happens as an actor is you got to get down to the truth and being honest. And I didn't really hit my stride on that until I got to New York. And I took, some serious acting classes at HP Studios and a place called the Actors Institute, and I started getting more truthful with what I was doing, and that led to, better roles and things like that. And then I think in terms of just experience, I think getting into advertising taught me a lot as well, because doing commercials, a lot of people think, oh, now I have to sell this product and be this big phony, but it's exactly the opposite of that. When you're doing commercials, and all the actors I've seen over the years who have auditioned for me, doing commercials, you have to be truthful. You really do have to be truthful. And so I learned a lot from just knowing how to still get after that, even though I was selling, everything from, Coke to Burger King to Sprint,
Right.
It still is a matter of just being real, So that was very, very helpful for me. And then I will say this, I'm a member of this theater company in New York called 68 Cent Theater Company.
We're just going to talk about them.
Theater Company. Yeah, and a huge, huge influence, because I hadn't been in a theater company in so many years, and I hadn't really gotten back into acting in a lot of years. I was doing stand-up improv. On a whim, I saw this online, and I went to this audition, and I fell in love. That's all I can say. I actually auditioned with a scene from my play, Settling Down, which at the time was called Brewster North, a different title, and it was not even like a sort of, I had a draft of it, but I thought, okay, let me just go in, try a scene from this, see if I can get into this company. I didn't know what to expect, We had this guy, Ronnie Marmo, there, who was, really seemed like a great leader, a great, director, teacher, who had, formed this very unique group of people who come together on every Monday night. We call it Gym. And we do acting scenes, and I lead improv at this company. And from getting back into being around actors like that once a week was unbelievable for me, because I watched people do scenes, and I was also required to get up and do scenes. I kept doing scenes from my play. Suddenly I thought, oh, my God, I think I have a play here. And it was huge, because I just was, watching people act and learning from them, and really, really talented group of people. And we were our own, teachers. There's no teacher in the company. The way Ronnie has it set up, we are our own critiquers, and we are incredibly positive and constructive with each other. And I saw this just huge range of talent in the class, and it really, raised the bar for me as an actor. And I started really trying to make this play work. So I got an opportunity to workshop it at 68, we call it. And then, then they had like this fantastic genesis. When you talk about experience, though, there's just no substitute for what I've gotten out of that,
Right. Certainly.
That's been
definitely.
huge. Yeah.
And pertinent to, like we were just talking about, 68 Cent Theater Company. Now, for those particular individuals who know nothing about this particular theater company, like most of us who obviously don't live there or aren't, privy to that, what sort of bodies of work, or what sort of performances? Is there a particular genre that you guys put productions on? How often are you doing productions? Tell us a little bit about that.
I could tell you in New York, okay, because it's different in L.A., where Ronnie Marmo started this company, I believe 12 years ago in L.A., and he wanted to also establish it in New York. In L.A., they do a lot of productions per year. They're sort of almost continually putting them on. And so he wanted to, establish his company in New York, where we do not do as frequent productions. But last year, we wrote and performed our own evening of one acts called Home Brewed, and I had a play produced in that, which was just, short, 10, 12-minute pieces, but very nice, very, good, tight little pieces of theater. And that was a really great experience for me, because I was sort of back, being in a show again. And that's the model he kind of has set up in New York, that we can sort of write and perform our own shows. And this play, my current play, Settling Down, was done as a staged reading in the company. And it's a smaller theater in New York than in L.A., which is a huge space. But the principles are exactly the same in both New York and L.A., which is this a big group of people coming together to sort of work their craft, have a community to go to on a weekly basis, and even beyond that. I mean, even we're friendly outside of the theater company, and networking and helping each other make connections, which is huge, as you know. Because, acting and writing could be a very lonely life, both.
Oh, yes.
And you have an opportunity to do both of those there, And he's wanted to set it up. I find what's unusual is how he's encouraged the writing. To get people who have never written before, actors, to say to them, look, you're going to go out and you guys, if you've never written before, are going to still write a 12-minute play. You're going to bring it in here, and I'm going to choose the best 6, and we're going to put it on. And we've done that. We also did a scene night recently in New York. So it's an evening of scenes, about 15 4-minute scenes. That was called an industry night, so we invited, agents, producers, etc., and that was great. That was fun. So I did a scene from The Odd Couple with another very talented guy named Tommy Calavito, who's in the company. And it's a place to really grow and flourish, I would say. And you see us set up a wonderful, wonderful philosophy here,
And it sounds exciting. And not to mention the fact, you said Odd Couple, and you got me right there. I was like, oh, my God, it's one of my favorite productions.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, my God, I absolutely adore it. Now, I wanted to kind of veer off a little bit before we start going into a discussion as far as the acting and the writing component, the comedy thing. I wanted to talk about that for just a minute. Now, for some odd reason, off the top of my head, I find this to be, I don't know, I looked at you, literally looked at your picture, et cetera, and I thought, this just doesn't seem like a natural choice for you as it relates to an occupation. Were you or have you been just a natural wit from the get-go, so it seemed like a normal transition for you? I tried stand-up, probably in my early 20s, mid-20s or whatever, and I just got that microphone in my hand, and I couldn't believe how much fun that was, Really? And yeah, that was just great. I was doing the kind of children's theater thing before that, and, I've always been able to get laughs on stage. I was very funny roles in college. So, I've always had that vibe, It's just a natural thing with me, I think, and where does that come from? That comes from sort of a classic Jewish comic thing of the kid in high school, who's trying to, prove that he's, that he's all right, that he deserves to exist, So I think I share some of that, Jewish comedian blood that the Billy Crystals of the world have and the Jerry Seinfelds. This is what, you know what I mean? It's like we're not exactly going to be the ones that get the girls, but we're going to definitely get the laughs. Oh, definitely.
And I think that persona is part of, who I am,
Really? Okay.
And that's now, and I brought that to the stand-up as well,
That's one element that I was curious to inquire about was, of course, obviously the impersonations, I should say, of Mr. Larry David. We all know who he is, obviously. 2 questions. Why Larry David in particular? And I'm going to guess the reason, but I'm going to let you tell everyone that. And then just give us a bird's eye account, like a fly-on-the-wall sort of scenario, meaning obviously I know that you've actually performed for the man himself. So give us a bird's eye view on that, and, of course, what originally brought you to doing him.
Well, that's I really have to try to consolidate this story. But basically everybody kept telling me I reminded them of him. And I got to the point where, I got to do something about this. What if I do a short film, okay, and this is before YouTube existed, by the way. I just thought, what if I do a short film in which I play him because I really can imitate him well? And then I realized I could imitate him well. I wasn't even trying to imitate him. But then I realized, well, it doesn't take anything for me to just really kind of sound like him. Because it's just got to be very obnoxious. It's easy. You got to irritate everybody. And I thought, well, okay, I'll do it for Cindy, but, she'll have to pay me. No. So I thought I could do this. And I went out and, with a friend of mine, we came up with this outline. And the idea of it was, we thought pretty clever, that a guy would be running around who looks like Larry David, and that'd be me. So I'd be playing Larry David, and then there'd be a lookalike of me running around. So I'd be playing Larry David, pissed off that there's a lookalike of me running around. With the end of the film turns out to be the real Larry David. It's a whole convoluted thing, but it really, really worked. And I got my friends to do it, and we shot it for nothing. We just ran around and, supermarkets and the rest of it. But I had an end game in mind, and the end game was that I was going to get this film to him, and he was going to hire me to write for Curb Your Enthusiasm. Okay?
Okay.
So I finished the film, and it came out great. I couldn't believe how good it came out. I thought, all right, just made this goofy little thing, and no one's ever going to see it. And I got a professional editor who I knew, from advertising to cut it. And worked so hard on this thing, and the people that were in it were great. I had a couple of friends of mine who are professional actors, and I had other people in it who just are friends of mine, period. You know, my friend's wife played Ellen, you know, Larry's wife on the show, and she had never even acted. She had never even acted. Yeah. And I was, like, astounded that, you know, she was so good. And my friend's wife played Susie, the agent's wife, who's on the show, and she wasn't an actress either, and she was hilarious. And it just worked out. And I got it. I ended up getting it to Larry himself, and then, long story short, he finally saw it. 6 months it took him to finally see it, and then we had this whole phone call. He actually called me one night. Out of the blue, he called me to tell me how great the film was. Now, someone must have seen it. Someone must have said to him, Larry, you got to call this guy. You know, he's like, all right, I'll call. I don't really want to, but I will. So he called me, and then I talked to him for 20 minutes. He told me what a great job I did on the film. I told him I'd been trying to get it to him for 6 months. He was like, really? And I said, yeah, and I think I should do a film about trying to get it to you, because that alone is good for me. Because that's funny. That's a funny idea. So at the end of the conversation, I said, well, Larry, you know, do you use any writers? He said, no, I don't. I said, well, could you ever think of using this idea for you know, the show? No, I can't do that either. I said, well, thank you for calling me, but could I stay in touch with you? He said, no, you could never stay in touch with me. That could never happen. I said, really? Oh, okay. So nice of you to call me, and thanks very much. So that's where that all ended up. But as a result of that, I actually started impersonating professionally at parties and things like that.
Cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Next time I come here, I have to come and see you then. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. Now, I wanted to highlight this to the audience members who don't know this, of course, because I know in the past you've performed at the Sunday Night Improv and, of course, at Gotham Comedy Club. Now, somehow, again, in my crazy brain, I thought to myself, I could envision you actually, for some reason, establishing a comedic place of your own. Maybe not necessarily you being the guy, but just hosting a bunch of comedians. Am I just nuts in thinking this?
No. I mean, you know, I've not really thought of that, but no, I could certainly MC, and I mean, I have done that kind of thing. I don't really want to do that, you know. I think where I'm heading now is almost kind of exactly what I want to do, in a way, because I've been looking to sort of create a vehicle for myself. And the stand-up is one way to get there. Improv is, you know, always that's a group effort. That's an ensemble thing. That's not a one-person, you know, thing. And neither is theater for that matter. But the idea of writing a play in which I could actually be the character in and bring in a lot of life experiences and bring in the stand-up in some level and bring in the improv and just have it all, like, stew together is exactly where I'm at with this play that I just did. And, you know, so that's where things have sort of emerged for me, you know. There's like this expression, ride the horse in the direction it's going, and that's kind of what's been happening here, you know. Yeah. I
understand completely. Now, one last question relative to the comedy bit. You know, we've had this discussion on my show before, like the typical Jim Carreys of the world. You know, you look at the bigger comedians in society, and the one thing that, and I'll ask you about this to get your take on this, let's say, for instance, your personal life has just gone completely amok. I mean, do you personally, let's say you got a show that night and you're thinking to yourself, how am I going to muster up? I mean, is that really challenging?
Well, I always somehow rise to the occasion. I mean, I have a tremendous amount of energy, you know, and I have a lot of focus, and I'm a professional, you know. So I can always bring it. Let me put it that way. I can always bring it. And no matter what else is going on, I seem to be able to do that. You know, and that comes down to leaving my, you know, 24-hour advertising job and running down and doing stand-up and hosting a benefit to, you know, running down to, you know, do improv on a Sunday night when it's the last thing you want to do, you know, because it's, you know, freezing and snowing and raining, and I got to come down from the suburbs in New York and go into the city and do it, and I'll do it because I love it. You know,
and
you
get that
that's the real performer thing, though. You know, But performers love the audience, and that's why we do it, because it's a gift. You know,
definitely. I agree with you, hands down, because I can tell you right now, I couldn't do what you do, not 5 seconds worth of it. I couldn't be funny. I couldn't be on a stage. I couldn't perform like that. I'm like,
well, you're
on
the stage right now, though. So you're doing something that a lot of people couldn't do either.
But the hidden secret to that is I've been on the stage for a while now, and I still haven't gone back to critique any of my work. I'm still working to the point where I can actually listen to myself do my job. Haven't done it yet.
Okay.
So I'm kind of like work in progress here. Right?
Right.
Okay. I want to get to talking a little bit about process as it relates. You know, I know you had prefaced earlier, of course, about commercial production. And to those who don't know this, you, of course, have been responsible for the creation of at least over 100 commercials, which, again, to your attribute, kudos to you. I'm guesstimating that in the creation of such a numerous amount of those would warrant that you're sharp in the areas of marketing. And obviously, I guess I can take it a step further. In your own mindset, can you maybe describe for us what you feel are some of the key elements surrounding the creation of a successful commercial? Because some of us watch commercials and we're like, that was just dumb shit, for lack of a better term. You know what I mean?
You have to have, it's storytelling, okay?
Okay.
And the best commercials are the ones that just tell a really compelling story in 30 seconds. It has a beginning, middle, and end, you know, as opposed to just nonsense that's just thrown up on the screen that's forced and not interesting. So you have to really be able to craft something that people want to pay attention to. And it could be funny, it could be sad, it could be, you know, scary, it could be anything. But as long as you can get people's attention, you only have 30 seconds. Sometimes you have 60 seconds. So your storytelling has to be so sharp and so concise, you know, and you have to be hitting on some kind of emotion. You've got to get people to look at what you're trying to say and nod, and then you can sell them. If you just try to sell them the features of a car for 30 seconds, people are going to go to sleep. But, you know, if you show me, you show me that car is like a rocket ship, and then suddenly you take me on this ride, and I'm like, oh, man, that's great. You know, you want to try to sell me car insurance? What's more boring than that? But show me a lizard that's a gecko who's talking to me with an Australian accent. I'm suddenly like, what the hell is that? And I'm paying attention.
I know.
How do you, so you got to, I'd say, let me just backtrack for a second. I think it's great storytelling, and how do you cut through? How do you cut through with your story? So you got to have a great story to tell, and then how are you going to cut through with that story? And that's execution. So there's the conceptual phase of a commercial, then there's the execution. Now what happens to a lot of commercials, maybe a great concept, horrible execution, or there's no concept at all, there's a great execution. So you better have one out of the two right. You better have that figured out. Yeah.
That was so very well put. Perfect. And I couldn't agree more as far as writing process goes. That makes perfect sense to me. Now, if I were to ask you, because you have such a lengthy career as it relates to creating all these, if you could just tell me, what was your favorite one to do, to create, and why?
Oh, I did one that just happened to sort of spring up and managed to get produced right away. And it was great that it did, because you don't know if you're ever going to get to sell these types of commercials. But I did one for Hebrew National hot dogs, and the whole idea with the detective is grilling a hot dog. You know, like grilling like a suspect, but he's grilling a hot dog that is not a Hebrew National. So it's like the hot dog. So then the hot dog is sweating, and he's doing, I think it tastes good hot dog. And we shot it like a black and white film noir detective movie. And it was so much fun, and it came out great, and it was nominated for some, advertising award, whatever. So that one, but I've had a number of them. I mean, I did commercials years ago with Bill Cosby, for Kodak, that I had a lot of good memories of, and there's just been a lot like that, But believe me, for every 5 or 6 like that, there's been like 20 that are like, yeah, okay, they're more forgettable.
Of course, don't we all have one of those? Like, pick it up, throw it in the trash.
Yeah, you're very lucky when you get one. When you get like that award-winning spot, it's really incredibly, incredibly satisfying. So,
I imagine so, definitely. And kudos to you. I just stand in awe of you. I can't even imagine 100. I'd be lucky to do about 4, and I'm like, oh my God.
Well, but that's over a lot of years, Cindy. That's not over 5 years. That's over longer than that.
So does that mean you're not 30 like I thought?
It's not what? No.
That means
no.
you're not like 35 years old like I thought? Oh.
Yes, no. I'm only 25. Really.
Yeah, see,
but I feel like I'm 25. That's the good thing.
I kind of gathered that. You know, you bring across this personality and this persona, like, oh my God, you're very refreshing because even though you appear to me to be this very serious, very business-like sort of person, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I'm talking to somebody who's totally not like that at all whatsoever. It's like I'm talking to somebody that it's perfect. I love it. Absolutely lovely. I want to talk a bit about Smash the Treadmill, which means that in that particular project, you were actor, writer, and director.
No, not director. No, that's not correct. Just actor and writer.
Okay, got it.
That's actually directed by Ronnie Marmo, who's the director of Theater 68.
Well, thank you for correcting me there, sir. Question. Now, as it relates to actor versus writer, have you discovered performing in the capacity as an actor, is it more complex than the writing process for you? Does one come easier to you now as compared to before? Has the role changed in terms of comfort level?
I think the acting is harder than the writing.
Really?
Yeah, it is. It is.
I'm shocked.
As a writer, I'm very fluid, and as an actor, I really have to work at it. And I have to work more at being natural and let that happen, do you know what I mean? And really make that reality happen on stage. I could be funny on stage, Cindy, in a minute, but the challenge is really to act. And acting is not, about trying to be funny. Acting is about, creating a real relationship on stage with somebody and listening. And that is the challenge. And I think that's the continual challenge for me to just, really make that work. And in this play that I'm in, I created a role for myself that's very, very close to my personality. Maybe a little more obnoxious than me. The guy has a little more of an edge than I think I do personally. But it's very close to me, so I have to still. But even that, I have to try to make scenes as real as possible, And the writing, though, just comes. I know how to write funny. I know rhythm. I know timing. I know situation. I know all of that, and that also comes from years and years of doing it. But there you go. I mean, so there's, I think, a little bit of the push pull. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you're talking about, actually.
Yeah,
I do.
And is the Alan writer judging the Alan actor? Is that happening a little bit? Trying not to let that happen because my head would explode.
I imagine. My God, look at that.
You know what I mean?
That's the quandary. No, I almost. So I find myself.
Step back.
Go ahead.
No. What I really try to do in terms of the process is not evaluate how my own lines are coming out and thinking, I should change that because that's not as funny as something else I could say. I'm letting that go now and just speaking it as if somebody else wrote it.
Sure.
That's what I need.
I find myself, and I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you and I'm thinking to myself, I have to ask this question, I guess. I'm just wondering if at any given point in time in your career, have you even for a moment had a regret and thought to yourself, you know what, maybe the writing is really what I just should have stuck to? Do you know what I'm saying? How sometimes you look back and think like, maybe.
Well, what's really interesting is that, or interesting to me, an audience of one, that I've definitely been, yes, I started as an actor, and then when I started writing Distiller and Mira, and I suddenly really fell in love with writing, after I got into writing for a number of years, I was like, gee, what happened to the acting? I should have stuck with acting. I really, really want to be an actor. So then I started integrating the improv back in and the stand-up and the rest. Because I had to be in front of an audience. Ultimately, I really think that's what I wanted to get back to. And writing was one way to do that. But, yeah, I definitely have gone back and forth. Oh, should I? And then I also drove myself crazy. I should have gone to L.A. and had been, a screenwriter. Because I had years of writing screenplays and trying to write sitcoms. And trying to write for Cheers and trying to write for this one and that one. And, so I had that whole arc of my creative life. I had an agent. I was trying to get established as a screenwriter and all that, So I've hopped around. And now I feel like I've sort of landed where I was supposed to land. Interestingly enough.
And And you're comfortable with that, obviously. I can tell that you're very comfortable with the skin you're in, as a matter of fact. And I don't want to forget to ask this question. Maybe just to the individuals that are out there that have never even heard of Smash the Treadmill, could you just maybe provide for us a short synopsis around the premise of this so if people are interested in checking it out?
That came to me. Sure. That came to me through a really, really close friend of mine, Marty Grabstein, a wonderful comic actor, and his partner, Rick Moat, equally wonderful comic actor, and they had a sketch comedy thing they were doing called Lab Rats. And just the two of them would run around in all these venues in New York, and they had, a little bit of a following. And they came to me and said, would you like to direct a show that we're thinking of doing? And you would, play our agent and manager. And I said, yeah, that sounds really fun. And I also got involved in the writing of that show with them. And I directed the play, and I really had never directed a play, to tell you the truth. I was like, oh, boy, I'm really just going to do this now, aren't I? And also be in it, and also help write it. So that was the beginning of this whole kind of thing that I'm doing now, actually. But that really went great, and this is that kind of little ramshackle production we threw together, but it was very, very funny, and the sketches that they had written were very funny. And I played this annoying as hell manager that's trying to guide him to these different comedy clubs. So it was a loose story, you know what I mean? It was a very loose story, and that's what it was. So I just really had a great experience doing that. We had a run off Broadway, and we got reviewed in Time Out New York. We were the pick of the month for a month. It was just wonderful, Great experience.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very, very, very cool. Awesome. Interested to ask this as well. Any possibility, and I don't know if you've considered this or not, and this is whether it's acting or writing, of course, might you extend yourself to film or perhaps television? Would you be interested in this? Are you just content where you are and this is how it's going to be?
No, of course I would want to extend myself. I'm totally ready to do that again.
You are?
Yes.
Okay.
Any opportunity to come my way, I would jump. I mean, I think the idea of creating my own vehicle is very good, and I really would love to see my play end up, possibly in another venue, to be developed as maybe a TV show. Who knows? I think I think it's rich. I think the characters are rich, and I think it has possibilities even above and beyond, a theater piece.
I just can't even imagine Hollywood without you. I'm thinking to myself, God, you're a gem. I mean, you're one of those individuals that Hollywood would be lucky to get because you're a multi-talent. And that doesn't always happen. I mean, sometimes I find people can either act or write, but it takes a true talent to be able to pull both of them off successfully is really the key. And I guess everybody measures their own success. You're quite welcome, actually. Wanted to obviously talk about settling down because to those that don't know, of course, it's in a limited run at the Manhattan Rep Theater this month. There's 4 select dates. Ticket prices set at $20, of course. I know you are actually playing the character of a newly engaged commitment phobia fellow. That's what I call it.
Good.
Can you tell me the predominant motivator behind this play? You sit down to be able to compose something or whatever. What do you find yourself most inspired by? What for you produces the best work writing-wise?
My own life, without a doubt. If I just look at my own life, the relationships in my life, the dynamics of those relationships, that to me is the gold, and that's what Jerry Seinfeld found when he sat down to do, Seinfeld. He looked at his own life in Manhattan, in his apartment, and just, looked at the people around him, and that's exactly what I did for this, I mean, it's loosely based, the relationship with my own wife, who's wonderful, Suzanne, and about the time we got engaged. But I've said it now with an older guy, getting engaged to somebody younger. But still the dynamic is the same and a little bit of the trepidation every guy feels, and he's really going to go through with this now. He's gotten engaged, and oh, my God, the title, Settling Down, I truthfully always did hate those words. And that's why.
Really?
Oh, yeah, I was like, oh, God, and it always sounded to me like that. And there was a character in it, a guy named Norman, based on an old childhood friend of mine who I remember visiting in the burbs. I don't know anybody living in the burbs. I was like this, groovy, Manhattan guy in advertising, and I was like saying, "This is it, Norman? This is what you have to look forward to? A mall and a park, and oh my God, just shoot me now." So from that, I think started the idea for this play, you know, of a guy who's really literally terrified to some degree of this incredibly boring, predictable existence, which could be marriage. Marriage could be that for certain people. Now, I think what this guy learns in the course of the play, Jerry, the character, is that that's not true. You know, and if you're with someone who really loves you, it could be a great ride. If you just open your damn eyes to who you got.
No, I guess you opened your damn eyes, right?
Oh, I opened my damn eyes for sure. I mean, I'm married a lot of years and very happy, and you know, but it's interesting because you gotta take your life apart, almost deconstruct it, and look at it, and playwriting or any kind of creative venture is all about what if. Yeah. What if this really? What if things happen this way instead of that way? You know.
Sure.
And so once you open yourself up to that, it's all kinds of fun. But I really looked, you know, I took a look around at all these, you know, people in my life, family, friends, and I was like, okay, I think I got something here, you know. But that's also where the comedic gems come from, because I think situationally things happen in your life, and if you just stay open to what is going on with you, you know, and look around and go, hey, I remember when that happened. What if I put that in this circumstance? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like plug and play, you know, and somehow I ended up with a play. I don't know. It just somehow happened. And we'll see how it does, you know. We'll see what audiences think. I think, look, I just know from having put the scenes on in Theater 68 over a year, I must have put on about 8 scenes from the play, and every single time I did, they went over great. So I'm hoping to have that same response.
Crossing fingers. And just to remind everyone, April 10th, is that correct, is opening night?
April 10th opens at Manhattan Repertory Theater, and it runs for 4 performances. I'm hoping longer. I'm hoping I can get an extended run out of it if I'm bringing enough people in. But, I'm really looking forward to it. It's a great venue. It's an intimate space, but I think it's perfect for the kind of play that we have, you know?
Okay.
And Ronnie's done a wonderful job directing within that space, and he's just a huge inspiration to me, this guy. I mean, I can't say enough about him, and the support that he's given to me through this entire process has just been huge. You know, and it's a co-production with Theater 68 and Manhattan Repertory Theater.
Sure. I understand completely. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I have 2 very simple questions for you before I let you go, because I'm having so much fun. Oh, my God, this is like going to be the highlight of my – you were like the best interview I had today, because the next one is a wonderful interview but a very sad story. So it's kind of going from a great interview to we have some serious things to talk about.
I can provide you with some sadness if you want. No, okay.
No, I'm pretty sure in the next 45 minutes I'll be having plenty of time, but thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Sure.
2 things, 2 simple things. First of all, just so all of you know, not to mention the fact all of the things we just talked about, which makes you absolutely amazing to begin with, but this is what impressed me the most. You're an admirer of the Godfather movies. You enjoy Frank Sinatra. You love 24, and I don't think you know this, but Kiefer Sutherland is my fantasy husband. He just doesn't know it yet. So
is that right? Yeah,
give me some insight.
All right, but the man has issues, so you want to reconsider.
Yeah, I know. He blows up buildings, he interrogates people, and he's always talking in that voice all the time. And you know, but he's hot. The guy's hot. Okay, I can't help it. I'm single. I don't. You know, I open my damn eyes, but I see no one here, so I'm still kind of waiting on that whole thing. But you got to give me hindsight on this before I ask you my very last question. What is up with everybody talking about this Bates Motel sensation? Apparently you're a follower of this and you like it. What is this? What is the stigma behind the Bates Motel thing?
You mean the show on A&E?
Yeah. I mean, this is like the rave now. Everybody's like, you don't know about Bates Motel? What the hell is Bates Motel? I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's just like a prequel to Psycho. I mean, I haven't even seen it. I know I hit like on it, I think, on my Facebook page, whatever, but I never even watched it, so that's so funny that you're bringing that up. But I think it's a
great,
clever
Alan. Now
idea.
You can't tell me a thing. Great.
Yeah, I can't tell you anything about it. No, but I just know it's a prequel to Psycho, so you find out how he got to be as insane as he was and what's the relationship with the mother about, kind of thing.
Sure.
You know.
I got you.
But
that's okay.
It sounds pretty clever. Well, there's somebody going, what if we learned about, you know, Norman Bates in the early years.
I agree. Definitely. I agree with you. So now, in closing, my dear friend, please do tell us, for the immediate future, do you have anything in the hopper beyond this play that's going on? What else can we expect from you?
Yes, they actually have another play. I have another one-act play called Get Back, which is going to be done in the same theater as Settling Down, and it's a very funny play about a businessman who has been very thoughtless in his life, and he chokes on a piece of radicchio, and he ends up dead, and he's in hell with Satan, played by a woman, and he has to redeem himself, and finally he does. He sort of owns up to his, misgivings and poor choices, and then he's allowed to leave hell, and then we realize he was never in hell at all. He was in heaven the entire time, and God was just pulling this whole number on him.
Oh, my God, really?
And that all happens in 12 minutes, by the way.
Really? Oh, my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, and it's very fun. And this was produced last year at Theater 68. So this will probably be another co-production with Theater 68 in Manhattan Rep.
Cool. Very cool.
It's part of a one-act competition. So that's the next thing. And I'm going to play the guy. I'm going to play the lead guy in that, too. So.
Gotcha.
And I'm going right to that from Settling Down. I'm going to go right into that. So.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Now, I also didn't want to forget to mention this to everybody. Now, obviously, of course, you and I are friends, but you do have a Facebook page presence. I know that. And you are also located on Twitter as well. ManhattanRep.com is obviously the place where people can find out about the production coming up this April 10th, I believe is what we had said was the opening night for Settling Down.
They can also go on they can friend me if they want to on my Facebook page, and I'll send them an invite type of thing.
Wonderful. Any other places social media-wise that they can find you?
Yes, also at offbroadwayworld.com it's listed. All the details are at offbroadwayworld.com. If they just put in Settling Down, it will come up.
Perfect. I want to make a note of that myself, obviously. Okay, wonderful. Yeah. Now, before I let you go, this is customary on Cindy's Chat Corner that at the last 30 seconds of the show, Cindy always takes 30 seconds to tell you what she thinks of you. This is my 30 seconds of, let me tell you what I really thought of my guest today. So I'm like, okay.
Sure.
This is what I want to say about Alan, and this goes obviously to you and everyone else that is listening. Obviously, when you bring someone on first who is a fellow writer, because I've been an author for a long time, it's always very intimidating because you're both in the same field and you have accomplishments and rights of your own. So it's kind of like, it's a little nerve-wracking. I wasn't sure what to expect. Bridget really didn't tell me anything. So I was like, okay, I didn't know what to expect out of him. So this is what I can tell you. For the serious man that I've been staring at all afternoon and researching, I have to say, you're a hoot. I mean, you are enjoyable. You don't take yourself too seriously. I can tell in the tone of your voice that I am betting that you are tickled pink the moment you step foot on a stage, the moment you pick up a pen and you write anything, which I find is just always so amazing. You're refreshing. You have personality. You just emulate, to me, just one of those people that you would sit down to in a restaurant and sit down and talk, and you have 50 million stories, all these wonderful things that you could tell us and keep us delightfully amused. I have every expectation that your play is going to get picked up 100-fold. I mean, I wouldn't even doubt it. And I would be so happy when I come to New York next, and I would be insulted if I don't go to see a production of yours because I think you're just amazingly talented.
Hopefully there'll be something for you to see.
I'm crossing my fingers, definitely. I'm going to post all your information on my page, and just to let you know, if you want to let people know, shortly after this, within the next half an hour, anybody who comes back to my show page will be able to listen to the entire interview that we just did, and then this way then, we can get certainly more exposure for you, and I'll be blasting it on into YouTube as well, so this way people get a sense of who you are and what you're doing. And certainly I'm going to be crossing my fingers. Definitely, and I'll be
really appreciate that
for you. Oh, of course.
That's great. Thank you so much, Cindy. I really appreciate that.
Not a problem at all. You have yourself a great weekend, and we'll
really enjoyed speaking to you. Okay. Thank you very much.
Sweetheart. All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, folks, that was my exclusive interview with Alan. Wasn't he just a hoot? I got to say, he was so very different than what I would have expected. Obviously, like I said, his fine publicist, Bridget O'Brien, had really not told me too much of anything about him. And so just in researching and learning about him, just amazing talent. Like I said, I can't speak enough anytime I'm privileged enough to be able to have individuals on my show that are not only one talent, but three talents such as himself. So it's really neat to see him extend himself to the comedic side of things, yet can turn around and do a dramatic performance, yet take such pride and pleasure in being able to write such beautiful creations. So kudos to you, Mr. Alan. I did not want to forget to make it a point to let all of you know how to get in contact with him one more time. Alan, last name is spelled, and that's Braunstein, B-R-A-U-N. S-T-E-I-N. As he had mentioned, you can certainly at any point in time go ahead and send him a friend request on Facebook. His Twitter handle is the same thing, which is at Alan Braunstein. Any individual who wishes to get information about the upcoming play, which is opening, as we mentioned, on April 10th, the name again being Settling Down, www.manhattanrapid.com. You'll be able to get ticket information on there as well as, I should say, all the upcoming performances. And again, to reiterate, April 10th, $20 for ticket prices, and it's only a limited run, which is 4 days, folks. So definitely make it a point in your schedule to go out and check him out. Again, thanks so much to Alan for being my guest this afternoon. As always, to my absolute favorite publicist, the most beautiful girl that I know, and the most established, Bridget O'Brien. You never cease to amaze me to bring me such talent and such wonderful people to my show. So I am forever indebted to you. You guys have yourself a wonderful afternoon. If those of you have some spare time coming this afternoon, in about 45 minutes, I'm going to be interviewing a friend of mine from the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area. He's going to be having a benefit this upcoming weekend at Big Dog's Sports Bar and Grill. His name is Joe Tercivia, and that's Torcivia. If you all want to go ahead and take a look at who he is and find out about him and his benefit, I'll be getting a chance to talk to him. The kind of offerings they're going to be having at Big Dogs this weekend, talk a little bit about his history, some of the things that he's battling in his life, and see if we all are able to muster up some great ideas to get him some help. So please, come back, 4:30 this afternoon, Central Standard Time, Sin's Chat Corner. Thanks again to everyone listening, and we'll talk to you soon.